Welcome to the Crime Dawg Podcast with your host and content creator, Johnny FIORICA, who told everyone he was getting a tattoo until his wife told him no. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
My name is Johnny FIORICA, host and content creator, along with my co-host, David Simpson. David, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Jason Blanchard, welcome to the podcast, my brother.
Happy to be here, John boy.
You sound like it. So listen, literally when I tell you, holy shit, we got a lot of content to cover today, right? Literally one of our brothers involved in a shootout in East Rochester. Was it a couple days ago? It was 2 days ago. Brad Steve, right, goes to what we call like a cause unknown, which we all know 9 times out of 10 cause unknowns are bullshit. A cause unknown, for people that are listening, is when somebody calls 911. They don't talk to anybody. Usually it's a call, it's a hang up, it's a cause unknown. We don't know what the hell it is. So the 911 dispatcher still sends those out because we don't know what it is. And now what happens? They go to a domestic in East Rochester, and he shows up with his brother officers. Brad, by the way, great dude personally. Great cop, retired from Brighton PD. I think he was a detective with them. Responds, and the male suspect ends up just firing rounds downrange at Brad. It's my understanding, and we don't have 100% information. Brad gets hit in the front. He had an outer carrier on. He gets hit in the front and possibly in one of his mag pouches. And thank God he's okay. It's my understanding that the boys on scene, possibly Brad, we don't know. This is all hearsay. We don't want to spread any bad rumors, but this is the preliminary information that the Crime Dawg Podcast got. He returns fire, drops the dude, end of story. I guess the guy's still breathing, but Brad's involved in a shootout. And here's my point. Everybody, especially since 2020, right? Everyone since 2020 talks about what cops should do, what they shouldn't do, and they all give us advice, right? And here's what I've been saying forever. I would never bust through a fucking door while Dr. Maurer, who is a leading brain surgeon in the world, is doing surgery and be like, hey, doc, I don't know if I would cut there. But here we go. Everyone wants to critique us and tell us how to do our jobs. First of all, shout out and kudos to our boys and girls out in ER, because let me tell you what, they did a phenomenal job, okay? Phenomenal job. Brad and the boys and girls out there. And what's my understanding, which is even better, is you had brother and sister officers responding from all over the fucking county, going to help our brethren and sisters to go help them, which was fan-tastic. And the bad guys in custody, and thank God, God willing, Brad's okay. And here we are, right, guys? Here we are. David, what are your thoughts on us getting so highly critiqued when an incident like this happens?
Well, I think, just like you said, I think we get money more than quarterbacked endlessly by people that are non-professionals. And I think the most difficult part of our job, honestly, is we have years and years of not only training, but experience of going to these calls and being in these situations and having right. Good outcomes and having awful outcomes. And that goes kind of into our toolbox of how we react during these situations. And these people that, analyze us the next day, one, they're not there in the immediate happenings of what's going on. And then they don't have all the experiences that we have over 10, 15, 20, 30 years of doing this. A lot of times we've seen this movie. Maybe we haven't been in shootouts, but we've seen the gun come out. We've seen it go bad. We've all been at domestics where it was all hunky-dory and then it wasn't. And, that's the first point I'd like to make is, people are, all of these things should be looked at. I mean, it's human nature. We do it with sports. We do it with everything. People are going to look at this, but I think they need to look at it from a little more of an objective outlook, kind of from an understanding outlook, asking questions, but waiting for answers versus immediately throwing opinions out there and judging. There's a big difference between analyzing something and asking professional people questions of why they do something, help me understand this, and saying, oh, you should have done that. That's totally different. And the other thing I would add is I lived 3 blocks from this location for all through high school. I lived on Garfield and West Main Street in East Rochester, so I'm very familiar with the area. It's definitely shocking. And I worked with the officer involved, great guy, solid cop, and he did a great job, and so did everyone there. But I guess that would be my view of people Monday morning quarterbacking is it's not necessarily that it's human nature to do it, no matter what it is. And I use sports as a reference, but it's the manner in which they do it that I seem to have so much issue with.
Yeah, you're right, David. And what I tell everybody too is when we talk about things, if anybody, and I mean anybody, now I had the pleasure of attending, not a ton because, I was not a rah-rah guy, but anybody who doesn't know what cops do, especially in the area that we go to, or we are from, go to an awards dinner where they give, and especially the RPD is got to sift through all those awards that they got to pick one guy or one girl for officer of the month, right? Sit through that dinner and wait until the last person, and you're going to go, holy shit. And by the way, there was probably 14 other incidents that month, specifically RPD, just because it was so big. But there's probably about 14 other incidents, 20 other incidents that they could have picked from to pick an officer of the month. But when you read that officer of the month, that one, it was like, holy shit, those cops did what? And it goes, and I had the pleasure of when Mikey Desane invited me a couple times to the Brighton dinner, and I've been invited to the IPD dinners over the course of my career. Their award ceremonies, same thing. Just because those smaller jurisdictions don't have 14 or 15 to pick from, but their monthly awards that they get, right, for incidents like this, what Brad was involved in, it is ridiculous. Jay,
it sounds like Superman was involved. Then you go to these things. It literally sounds like a superhero.
Literally, when you read these awards, it's amazing what these cops, what our brother and sister officers go through. Jay, I want to get your take. You always have a unique take on things. Here we go. Cause unknown, cops show up, and then fucking the firefight's on.
Well, first of all, I want to piggyback on what you and David were saying. I think you're hard pressed to find a profession, right, that has to go about doing their business with a camera strapped to the middle of their chest, so they can be then second guessed and third guessed and fourth guessed as to what they did or didn't do, and why we didn't fire a shot into their leg or a warning shot in the air, or all these, things that people come up with as to why the officer didn't do X, Y, and Z. We all know that action beats reaction, right? All the time. We all know that our actions are dictated by the suspect's actions. And, our men and women that are out there, everybody gets to sit back in their chairs and watch these cameras and pause them and review them and look at them and hyper critique the moment where literally, split second decisions are made. Right. And I don't know the officer, but I will say, thank God he had a vest on, right, from my understanding. And, there's no easy gigs anymore. Right. I mean, guys, think that they're going to go work a special event, or they're going to go work a part-time job. When you put this uniform on, there's no easy gigs anymore, man. I mean, that's it. You are a target, sometimes good and sometimes bad. And people with bad intentions, are looking for those officers in uniform. And, I think that, as usual, 99% of the time nationwide, these men and women that are involved in these critical incidents act as they should.
Mm-hmm.
And these body-worn cameras come back and show it, right? But what I find funny is, again, we're the only profession probably that has these and run around with them nationwide. And, we don't have to look too far back in our own political nonsense here in the city of Rochester. And yet the men and women of the RPD and all these other agencies come out every day, day in and day out, and show up and act professionally and treat everybody professionally. And, I think that, we lose sight of the fantastic police organizations we have here in New York, especially in the Western, upstate New York region, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys are trained, the guys and girls are trained second to none. And, I don't know if he had BWC. I would suspect that they probably did. Most agencies do. But it doesn't matter, right? I mean, the outcome was what we hope for is, what the good guys go home at the end of the night. So if these body worn cameras, these BWCs were there, then, so be it. And if they weren't, so be it.
I think people, you really hit on something, Jay. I think people really understand this too, is when cops in the modern times go to work, you're regularly going to come into contact with people that want to kill you. They may not act on it that day, but you're going to come into contact with people that legitimately the thought goes through their head, I really want to kill that guy. They don't like you. Okay. They want to harm you. That maybe not was always the case. That is 100% the case now. And that's what cops have to deal with now on a daily basis. Yeah. You can go to a domestic, you can pull over a car. That guy, how many times have we seen shootings where it was a nothing? And all of a sudden the guy pulls a gun on the cop. He did that because he wanted to kill the cop. It wasn't that he thought he was going to jail for 1,000,000 years or anything like that. He didn't want to like the police, and he basically said, fuck it. And that's a regular part of cops' jobs nowadays. A lot of times before, Johnny, and you can speak on this, when I first came on the job, if a guy was going to get in a shootout with you, usually they were looking at a long prison sentence. They, were out on, they'd committed a murder, they're out. There was some, they were trying to get away from something that it was either go to jail for the rest of their life or try to get away. There's shootings all the time now where cops get ambushed, where they go and pull over a car for a DWI or a traffic stop and the guy shoots the cop. It makes no sense. But to me, it comes back down to there's people out there that cops come into contact with on a regular basis that want to kill or hurt police.
Say the scary part about that, right, is that you're always going to be reacting to that, right? And we again, it doesn't have to be police officers, right? Think about West Webster on Christmas Eve, right? Those poor guys going out there trying to do, to put out a fire, and they're ambushed by some lunatic at high ground with an assault rifle. So, I mean, these are the horrifying realities that these men and women are operating in on a daily basis.
Right. So before you judge, you got to have that in your memory bank for when you're analyzing what is going on. You have to realize that most men and women that are in law enforcement today have to have that at least in the back of their mind to survive their shift on a daily basis. They have to be in a very heightened state of awareness, more so than even I did 22, 23, 24, 25 years ago when I came on the job. It's just a different time. And that has to be factored in to some of the decision making that goes on. And the fact that 99.9% of the shootings are good with that at the forefront of most cops' brain is truly exemplary to me.
Yeah. So just to touch on a couple points. So, contrary to the agitators that are out there, whether they're local or national, a cop doesn't take a shower, wash his hair or his hair and go to work and brush her teeth, or she puts on her makeup and whatever, goes to work, whatever it is, male or female. They don't take their showers and go, oh man, I hope I get in a fucking shootout today. That's such a line of bullshit. The agitators will say, oh, these people are programmed to kill. We're not programmed to kill. We are prepared to defend. There's a huge difference. We are prepared to defend. And that's what we do every day. Okay. And number two, we're not, like Jay said, we are trained to stop the threat. Okay. That's why our targets at the academy, they don't have legs, right? There's no hands on them, right? It's center mass or headshots. There's no silver medals. There's no second place. And if you think that there is in law enforcement, not the job for you. At the end of the day, what it comes down to, and I agree with you, Jay, I think our training is second to none. I'm not saying that we have the best training in the entire country, but I'll tell you what, it's got to be right up there. I think our SWAT boys that train us a lot on their tactics and stuff like that, both MCSO and RPD, I think they're top notch. Okay, I think they're top notch, they're top shelf,
Right.
and that's what keeps us safe, right? So at the end of the day, those tactical warrant schools, all of those shooting scenarios, the prism at the academy, which by the way, I'm probably dating myself, but that shoot don't shoot is what they used to call it, scenario where the guy quickly pulls out the wallet and you're like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't shoot that guy. During the prism scenarios that we train on, and we train and train and train and train to have outcomes like Brad's incident, right? We train to have outcomes like Brad's incident where bad guy gets put down, good guys are okay. Citizens that are surrounding the area where this unfortunate incident happened, they're okay. But the agitators like to agitate. The agitators will say something negative about the cops or say something that, oh, the cops should have done this, the cops should have done that. I don't know every single thing about this scenario. So that's why I'm very reserved relative to my comments about what happened. And plus, it's an open case, and I don't want to do anything because I don't know if the information that I got is 100% accurate. And I certainly know that some of the information that I got, because I'm all on the text strings with current and former law enforcement, some of the information that preliminarily got sent out was not accurate. And that's why I want to just address the bravery of not only the East Rochester Police Department, them protecting their community, which is what they're paid to do, but the agitators, they got to take a step back. Let shit digest. And I'm going to tell you another thing. The one thing that really irritates me is we have BWCs, we have body-worn cameras now. Those things have turned out, I know we in law enforcement didn't want them. They're turning out to probably be our best asset that we have technology-wise, because I know talking to people that have to represent guys on the union side, where they told me that complaints went from in the RPD like 85 to 100 a year, just for example, down to like 12, 15 complaints because people made accusations against the cops. And then all of a sudden they just pull the BWC up, the body worn camera footage. And it's like, oh shit, that's not there.
Right, Johnny,
the cop did this,
It's the same as when they put the cameras in the box, when they put it in the interview room. A lot of old timers were like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And rightly so. It was a huge change.
Yeah.
But that turned out to be a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Because tough to challenge a confession on videotape when Miranda's on videotape and everything's done. It totally, once you got through it, they're locked on.
And what else it does is from the standpoint of being on the streets, right? It shows not a total picture, right? But it gives you a pretty darn good idea of the dynamics of what the officers were dealing with at that time, right? So everybody wants to paint it out to be this, the officers rolled up on a quiet, sunset street with people outside sipping their cocktails and having a picnic. And when you turn the BWCs on, you see that they're getting rocked and bottled and, whatever it may be. So it's nice because it's eye-opening for, Joe Public to see, hey, these officers that rolled up, this is the scene that they came into. This is how aggressive the scene was. This is what it was. This wasn't the person that you're seeing 5 days later on the news acting like a gentleman saying that the police arrested me for no reason. This is the guy who's out there screaming in their faces, threatening to kill them or threatening to fight them. This is how he acted that evening, So I agree with you. I didn't want the cameras to begin with either, but I think it's nice because you don't have to take my word for it now. Here you go. This is what was occurring. This is how they
press play.
That's it.
Yeah. And I think that ever since the Rodney King video came out, right? And let's not forget, right? That was like my sister's wedding, the old shoulder mounted camcorder with the cord that was 80 feet long, like the 1986 cameraman from Channel 13. And here we go from that to the TV show Cops, right? To now we got BWCs, right? Body worn cameras. And I keep saying that because I want everyone that's listening, they understand what those abbreviations are. Well, as you follow the podcast, we are pretty hyper vigilant. And if we don't, Danny, our producer, will send us a little note saying that. But the body worn cameras, this is where we're at, guys. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And I think that they've done policing some good. And you know what? I got to be honest with you, and I'll side with the agitators on this one thing. And I know you guys will agree with me. If there is a cop that is doing things that are illegal, then fuck it. You know what? Let the BWC's on there. You know, that's a different story. Illegal, criminal, different story. There's a big difference between a cop that does something illegal or criminal on a body worn and it's captured, as opposed to a cop doing his or her job and it's captured, and you're trying to, like you said, David, Monday morning quarterback that.
You know, sometimes police work is ugly, right? Sometimes the optics of what occurred don't look pretty, but it doesn't mean that our men and women are wrong in what they did, right?
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
training is our training, right? And sometimes, you know, again, we are forced to act based on the suspect's actions. And, you know, we are using the appropriate amount of force, and sometimes that force may not look pretty, you know, to Joe Blow, who's Monday morning
Yeah.
quarterback in this. But guess what? We don't apologize for that, right? We
Winning a
say,
fight
"Hey, listen,
sometimes is ugly.
that's it, right?" And we are here to win the fight. We are here to maintain professionalism, and we are here, most importantly, to go home to our families at the end of the night. And that's the bottom line. You know, it's the bottom line.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think that people lose sight of that, right? I mean, it's easy to watch a video, and I think we as cops sometimes we get caught up on watching things on TV that we know absolutely nothing about. And I always used to say the worst cops that I ever worked with were the ones that know nothing about a case. They don't want to sit and listen, but they can't wait to give you their opinion. That's what I think body worn cameras are, right? America is, they think that they're watching something, and they think that, oh, I'm going to jump on social media. I'm going to clip this, clip that, put it on social media. I'm going to tell you what I think about this incident. And I think there's a couple news outlets that are responsible with that. And you have some journalists, there's few and far between now, but there are some journalists that will say, you know what, this is what happened. Let the rock settle in the pond. Let's wait. Let's get the full story, which is why I'm very, very careful what I say about this particular incident, because I don't want to say something that is incorrect, or that might hurt a case, or that, I'm just all basic stuff. And I don't want to talk about anything, because at the end of the day, there's still so much that has to be done. There's still investigations that need to be done. I guarantee you, from a detective standpoint, I guarantee you, Bolton and his guys at MCSO and all those people at the sheriff's department helping out East Rochester on this case, bet you they've been working 24 or 48 hours nonstop. Nothing except dip and coffee to keep them going, right? That's your source of calorie intake when you do an investigation like this. You're sitting there going, oh man, I don't know when I'm going to eat again. Trust me, I skip a couple of meals. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you work these cases, which I've done a bunch of them. It's like you walked out the door not expecting this, and your family don't see you for 3 days,
Right. You go from dad to Uncle Dave or Uncle Johnny. You lose your hierarchy in the family really quick after these investigations. One thing I wanted to touch on, Johnny, that you brought up was, I can speak on a little bit, is I traveled extensively, probably more than most, working for RPD. I was fortunate enough to, in a couple of my different jobs, to go and work with like the Chicago PD, NYPD, Atlanta PD, Houston PD, just a lot of different agencies. And I can speak on the fact that our training and our equipment is in fact some of the best in the country. Yeah. And the amount of time we put in to training our guys and girls is outstanding compared to other places. Now, it might have improved in the last 5 to 10 years, but when I was going around the country, I was astonished at how great we had it here. And I don't think guys and girls know, that are in the profession, that haven't traveled around, how good they have it here compared to like NYPD or Chicago PD or some of these major cities. It is really exceptional in Monroe County.
Yeah. I mean, I think we got the, I'm partial. I instructed for years, and trust me, I wouldn't rank myself amongst the greatest because
Neither would I.
I think, I think like the legends like Steve Grant that taught us DT. I think that dude was a certified badass who was such a great instructor, such a great teacher. And he was always in search of the most knowledge that he can share with his students, with his academy recruits. He's just a living legend. You talk about training like that. And I think that Steve is just one of many. And I think that they're not just with the RPD. I think that, throughout Monroe County, the county that we live in upstate New York, I think they're just second to none. And we've all had the opportunity to train with feds, and we had the opportunity to train with local people, local, state, and federal. And luckily, those agencies that we train with, I think they're all top shelf. But you're right. You go to different parts of the country and shit, right? Some of these body worn cameras show the training, right? Or the lack thereof, right?
Right. Listen, Sheriff Baxter, who, was an RPD guy, I worked for him. I was on the SWAT team when he was our commander.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan just because that guy, he was a big training guy. Sometimes I didn't always understand it, but he always had his guys and girls prepared, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, he's kept a lot of people safe and alive.
Yeah, and
Truly.
He made it interesting. I mean, I tell you, people ask me about Todd, right? I mean, I worked for over the course of my career with some dudes, and when I get asked by some people about Todd, I'm like, listen, the dude that you see on TV, the dude
100%.
that you hear talking on the news, when he gives these great speeches, because that guy's never at a loss for words, man. And when he gives these speeches or he says these talks, or it doesn't matter where he is, he could be talking to two kids with no microphone or camera in front of him,
Right.
On a corner. His excitement, his attitude towards the public, towards his officers, toward whatever. It's like, that's Todd. Todd's been like that since he was an officer in Lake Section.
Right.
Johnny,
He can make you run through a wall.
Todd,
Especially with the academy, right?
Todd was my class counselor. Okay. So Todd was my
How'd
class
you get
counselor.
through?
Exactly. Todd was my class counselor as a police officer. Todd hadn't made rank yet, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, 100%, as I say this, Todd is the same guy today as he was almost 4 years ago when he was my class counselor.
That's why he has the respect, though.
He shoots you straight, right? He shoots you straight. You got to respect a dude like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And more importantly, he puts his money where his mouth is. He doesn't ask anybody to do something that he wasn't willing to do. And if he said something, whether you agreed with it or not, he stood by it. He stood by it. I'll take that any day of the week.
The guy's still clearing corners as the sheriff. Are you kidding me? You got to respect that if you're a guy. I mean, legitimately.
Yeah, he is 100%.
It's funny though, Todd's just one of many. Todd is a training legend in the area regionally too. I mean, he's known all over the East Coast. I mean, he definitely dedicated himself to the craft. You get me, who got a 520 in his SAT, and it was just like, let's go get him. We just open up the door. I was like a bull. It was like, I don't know. I didn't read. I can't write, but I want to go do police work. Todd was a man of his craft. But so guys, listen, let's bring it back around before we end this segment. I want to give blessings to the East Rochester Police Department and all those men and women that responded. So happy that they made it out on the other side safe. They were able to go back to their families. God bless all of them. And I'm just happy to know that at the end of the day, bad guy down, good guys walk out the door. That's all I care about. And nobody in the community was injured. That's a testament. Listen, folks, stick around. We got a lot to talk about. Tune in, Crime Dawg Podcast. We're not just going to talk about current incidents that happen in the Rochester area and in upstate New York. We're going to talk about shit that happens all over the country. And it's just not going to be, today it just happened to be about cops, luckily, right? We're the Crime Dawg Podcast, but we're just not going to talk about police stuff. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about sports. We're going to talk about anything that you're interested in, that we're interested in. And sometimes we're just going to be three dumb guys in a panel just babbling on. But we hope you stick with us.
Bills.
Go Josh Allen. But listen, like my brother-in-law, Frankie Grassi says, if you can't tune in, who cares? See ya.